It's time to listen to Grandma.
Lavender blue, dilly dilly, lavender green. If I were king, dilly dilly, you'd be my queen.
Yes, listen to Grandma. Here, ready with wit and wisdom, are four real-life grandmothers, our board of genuine experts in the art of living. And here is our master of ceremonies, your longtime radio favorite, our own Cliff Arquette.
Thank you. And thank you, Arch Presby. Are we all ready, Grandmas? Mm-hmm. Let's hear them. Ah, the rattle of the teacups. Rattle of the teacups, that's a signal to listen to Grandma. When they get out of line, I sock this beat-up old coffee pot. And they do get out of line, too. Now, I want you to meet the real stars of tonight's show. First, Grandma Smith from...
Waynesboro, Pennsylvania.
Waynesboro, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And next we have Grandma Page from...
Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, good. Uh-huh.
A lot of Hoosiers here tonight.
A lot of Hoosiers here tonight. And then we have Grandma Morgan from...
Hollywood, California.
Well. And our special guest grandma tonight, Grandma Cooper from...
Helena, Montana.
Helena, Montana. Now I'm going to ask Arch to explain just what we mean when we invite you to listen to Grandma.
Well, each one of these charming, honored, and respected women is a grandmother in real life. That means that their discussion of the questions sent in by you, the listener, will be based not on theory, but on experience. That's all there is to it. Just write in your question, and then listen to Grandma.
There's a specially designed Grandma's tea service, 4 beautiful pieces in sterling silver, for each listener whose question is used on the air.
Yes, in fact, the first sterling tea service is already on its way to Mrs. Ruth Ingram, 118 Pine Street, Seattle, Washington, who sent in this letter.
She says, Dear Grandmas, I'm a grandmother, too, a young grandmother who feels as young as she did 15 years ago. But suddenly my daughter is insisting that I stop dressing so young. She knows my husband approves of my clothes. She agrees they're not cheap or flashy. But she says I should start dressing my age, no matter how I feel. Who's right in this case, or aren't there any rules? All right, girls, start banging away on the teacups.
Mrs. Cooper.
Well, I believe Mrs. Grandma Cooper there.
Well, I think that this grandmother's daughter has a little peeve coming. She probably isn't keeping up herself as she should. Maybe she has some little children to take care of. But she looks down at her dress and thinks, well, I'm not quite so smart, and I don't want Mother to get the best of me, so I'm just going to put a bug in her ear and tell her not to dress quite so smart. You see, she says she's not flashy. She has good clothes. Now, what is the cause? I think it's daughter herself. Now, of course, we're not supposed to talk about ourselves, I guess, but I'm a grandmother and a great-grandmother. Does anybody think I am too flashy?
Well, no.
You see, I have buttons, and I have bows, see?
Wow.
So, I don't think for an old great-grandmother that I am, that I'm dressed too flashy. I have my new spring hat on so you can all see it. And my dress, of course, is my old winter dress, but I love it. I think the buttons and the bows on it make me look at least 10 or 15 years younger. But I'm rather proud to say I'm going on 76.
76?
To this dear grandmother, don't you worry, grandmother. You just dress in your buttons and bows and your frizzy hair and go and have a nice permanent once in a while. Get you a nice spring hat and let daughter take care of her own clothes.
Very good advice. How about you other grandmas? You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, you couldn't make it any better.
What do you mean you couldn't make it any better?
Why, she hit every point.
You couldn't.
That's true.
Well, now what about slacks? Do you think that...
No slacks.
You all agree?
No slacks, Mr. Arquette.
Well, you know, I've seen slacks on some elderly women, and I wonder why they call them slacks.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Thank you, Grandma Smith, for agreeing with me. You know, one of the cutest things, I go along with Grandma Cooper. I think one of the cutest things is right in my own neighborhood, there's a grandmother, a daughter, and a little girl, and oftentimes I see them come out and they dress in identical dresses with little pinafores. And it really looks very cute.
I think they're very pretty.
I wish I could wear a pinafore.
You'd look different at any rate.
Thank you, Grandma Smith. Grandma Smith always comes through. Well, I think that sort of takes care of our letter from Mrs. Ruth Ingram. I think that the grandmothers here all agree, in summing this thing up, that the daughter's the one who's out of line. How about our second question, Arch?
And now for our second question, Cliff. Incidentally, you members of our studio audience are going to get your chance later in the program when we come to our fast and furious Tell the Truth session.
Yes, Grandmas, and I've had a peek at some of the questions they're going to ask you, and oh, murder. Brace yourself, because they're not pulling their punches out in the audience. But now for the second question.
This one is from Mrs. Barbara Baker, 1582 78th Avenue, Oakland, California, who receives a sterling silver tea service for writing.
And she writes, Dear Grandmas, our two daughters are at the age where they're seriously thinking of romance and marriage. What role should my husband and I play in this? We want them to live their own lives, of course, but we want those lives to be right. Should we keep out of it always, even though it seems they're making a mistake? Or should we try to help them by things we've learned in our own lives? Let me hear the teacups, Grandmas. I think Grandma Page was first this time.
Thank you. I don't believe that children profit by their parents' experience. And I think this grandmother has an idea that she knows more, or the mother rather, than the children, but she really doesn't. The youngsters of today are more advanced, they're more modern, and they have very good little think tanks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Mother has to worry about them one bit. Besides, no one ever did profit by someone else's experience.
That's very true, because no one's life pattern is the same. Mm-hmm. Then you think the parents should keep their big fat noses out of it.
I certainly do. Everybody'd be happier.
How about you, Grandma Smith? I see you're all puckered up to say something.
Oh, I agree with her there.
Mhm.
I agree with her. After all, they have to have their experiences. They have to have their ideas. They won't listen to you at any rate. So you know they don't.
Well, you know, I think the trouble with the young people today is that they have everything the adults have except experience.
That's right.
And experience is like the measles. You don't know what it is till you've had it. Is that right?
That's right.
I haven't had it yet.
No. You haven't had?
Experience.
Oh. Is that a laugh?
Well, I can dream, can't I? Well, listen, don't you think, now I have a couple of teenage kids, and it won't be too long, but they'll be getting on that romantic side. Don't you think it's a good plan for the parents to encourage the children to have their parties at home and not out in dance halls and places?
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr.
We
Arthur.
always had
Absolutely.
it home. We always had it.
How about that, Grandma Morgan? You kind of came out
Oh,
there.
yes, I think absolutely at home. And you play with them, too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
But
they...
disappear when they want you to disappear.
You always know when, too.
Grandma Smith, take it easy, will you?
They ought to have to tell you the truth.
Well, I think that kind of sums up our question. We're all agreed that, I believe, or is there anybody that doesn't agree on that?
I think we all agree on that, Mr. Arthur.
That the parents should keep out of the young folks' life.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think
Not
maybe they
too
can...
much.
Not too much,
No, no. Goodness, no.
What do you mean, Grandma Smith?
Well, just sit in the sidelines and see what's going on.
What do you call the sidelines?
Well, just wherever you happen to be.
You won't sit there very long.
No,
They'll
you
come
don't.
to you.
You're
Yeah,
right.
huh?
Just wait, they'll come.
Somebody will pull the drape back, and there you are. Oh, I know what these kids are talking about. I would like to have a little talk with our guest grandma tonight, Mrs. Cooper. You're from Montana?
Yes, Helena, Montana.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago did you leave Montana?
25 years ago.
Mm. How was the transportation 25 years ago?
Oh, it wasn't quite as elegant as it is now. But tell the truth, I haven't been on a train in 20 years. I have an old automobile, and I go back and forth to Montana and everywhere in my automobile.
You do, really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you drive it yourself?
Drive it myself.
And you're how old?
Going on 76.
How about that, and drives their own car? Mm-hmm. I'll remember that when I'm out driving the next time.
You need to keep out of my way, don't you?
To keep out of your way.
She always has
You
that
need to
car
worry. I go
loaded.
and have an examination every once in a while, and they tell me the years don't matter. It's your ability to drive.
That's right.
I believe that. I was only kidding Grandma Cooper. But you're a wonderful driver, really. What's that, Grandma
Well, she
Smith?
was putting you in your place, that was all.
I love that.
You like that, don't you?
And you came out to California, and you've been this is your home.
This is my home now, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I came out, my husband was a lawyer, and he's on the bench of the Supreme Court, and they had some legal business out here, and we liked it, and he retired from the court, and we've been here ever since.
Isn't that wonderful?
And that's
Tell me, how many children do you have?
I have 2 sons, 2 granddaughters,
2 granddaughters?
1 grandson,
Mhm.
and 2 great-granddaughters.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? You have a house full, don't you?
They're not all in my house.
You have 2 sons.
2 sons.
Mm-hmm. What are their names?
Arthur,
Mm-hmm.
he's in business in the valley, and Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper?
That is really why we stayed here, because he came out to visit us from college. He was in Grinnell, Iowa. He came out to visit us and got a little job riding, cowboy type, you know.
Mhm.
And he thought he liked it and thought he would like to stick to that instead of going back to school. So his father gave him a year to make good, and in a year he had his name in bright lights, so that he made good.
Isn't that wonderful? All you have to do out here is learn to ride a horse. How about it, Arch? The next one.
Our next question comes from Miss Catherine Davis of 54 Morningside Drive, New York City, who receives a Grandma's tea service in sterling silver for writing.
Dear Grandmas, I recently read an article in which experts claimed that in 4 out of every 10 modern marriages, it was the woman, not the man, who actually brought the proposal about. Wait a minute, kid. Don't clap till I get to the end of the joke, please. She goes on to say, maybe not knowing that is what has kept me single. But I wonder what you think. Is it ever right for a woman to sort of take charge? I never heard of anyone doing it in your day, or were they just more subtle about it? Let's hear from you, Grandma. I think we'll give Grandma Morgan a chance at this one.
Well, I think times have changed. Of course, I'm sure these ladies will agree with me that when we were girls, we were wooed.
Well, now, times haven't changed too much. The girls are woo-wooed now. Now, wait a minute,
I
girls.
must say I thought it was very lovely because I think innately every woman loves the courtesy that a man shows a woman.
Well, tell me, Grandma Morgan, they didn't use any tricks then?
They may have, but they were subtle about it if they did.
Oh, now, wait a minute. I don't agree with that subtle part of it, Grandma Morgan. It seems to me, I remember they used to do a lot of fainting. They get the guy on a horsehair sofa, and then they'd fall down on their head. Now, was that a trick or a tight corset?
Mrs. Cooper and I agreed that was before our time.
Oh, that was before your time. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't before mine. How'd that happen?
Grandma Page is getting in there, too. I think that kind of sums things up that they did use tricks in a kind of a subtle way. Sure. But I think they've been using tricks ever since Eve gave that old applesauce to Adam. I don't know what applesauce
I
is.
still think the girl modestly waited to receive a proposal.
Sure.
I think so, too.
Yes.
Well, I admire the new girl with her direct approach.
I do, too.
Think she's wonderful.
What am I saying? You know, one thing I've noticed, you grandmothers are really modern. Why, most of you were young women, not back in the 80s or 90s, but right up in the 1900s. I'll bet you were all dancing like mad around 1910 to such newfangled steps as the grizzly bear and the bunny hug and the turkey trot. How about that? Do you remember those dances? Here's another thing I bet you've forgotten, the prices in those days. I did a little research, and here's what I came up with. In 1910, a good family restaurant was serving a full meal, including rib steak, mashed potatoes, salad, hot rolls, coffee, and dessert, for the outrageous price of 25 cents.
Yeah, just think of that.
How about that? Hamburger was 3 pounds for a quarter, and the butcher would give you all the liver you could carry home for free. Of course, we got it for the cat. I shouldn't call my father a cat. And you remember some of the songs of that year. Meet Me Tonight in Dreamland, very big. I Want a Girl Just Like the Girl That Married Dear Old Dad, that was a smash. Or Put Your Arms Around Me, Honey, Hold Me Tight. Then there were the songs that my father loved. One was Make a Noise Like a Hoop and Roll Away. And that was number one on the gramophone parade. Another one, filled with sweet sentiment, was I'll lend you everything but my wife, and I'll make you a present of her. Oh, yeah, I tell you, that was wonderful music. Probably the top tune of that year was Joe Howard's I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now. Not only for that year, it came back in 1947 as a big hit when they used it for the title of a movie. Let's go back to 1910 for a musical memory. Twilight's falling along a quiet, elm-shaded street. There's a boy and a girl in the porch swing holding hands. Lamps are being lighted in the parlor, and through the soft summer evening, we hear the sweet harmony of the village quartet. They're singing, I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now.
I wonder who's kissing her now. Wonder who's teaching her how. Wonder who's looking into her eyes, breathing sighs, telling lies. I wonder who's buying the wine for lips that I used to call mine. Wonder if she'll ever tell him of me. I wonder who's kissing her now.
Thank you. That was the Four Grandsons. Ah, that was wonderful. Now, I noticed you girls there were bouncing around a little bit on that number. Especially you, Grandma Smith. You still...
You know, I had it in my home all my life.
In your home?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
With my boys and girls.
Where was your home again, Grandma?
Waynesboro, Pennsylvania.
How many boys do you have?
I had 4.
4 boys?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I have 3 now.
And how many girls?
2 girls.
2 girls and 2
2
boys?
girls.
Do you care to give us the name of your sons?
Well, there's Frank Landis,
Mm-hmm.
Mark Carl, and Tom Brenneman.
Well, how about that? I guess we fooled them, didn't we, Grandma Smith?
No, we didn't. We didn't fool them at all.
No, I guess not. I guess they saw you in that picture, huh?
I don't know.
You were real cute in the picture. Grandma Cooper was in the picture, too, wasn't
Sure. We were pals.
Were you in the picture, too, Grandma Page?
I just missed it. I foolishly went to Arrowhead and they couldn't find me.
Oh, I thought maybe you didn't pay up your dues.
Well, I didn't do that too.
Who's that?
Mrs. LeSueur, Anne LeSueur, Joan Crawford's mother.
Oh, that's right.
Hedda Hopper.
Hedda
Hedda Hopper. Was
Is
in
she a
our
grandmother?
Group. No, I think she
Hedda
was in our
Hopper?
group.
Well,
in our
surely.
group.
Is she a grandmother?
I think she is. That was your fault, wasn't ours.
Keep out of it. I'll keep out of it. Where are we, Art?
Well, before our next question, I'd like to explain how you can submit your question. Just address it to Listen to Grandma, Hollywood 28, California. If it is used on our broadcast, you will receive a specially designed Grandma's Tea Service, 4 beautiful pieces in sterling silver. And now, here's a letter from Mrs. Edith Cameron, 4208 Sycamore Road, Miami, Florida, who writes,
Dear Grandmas, everyone has heard of the bride who winds up a spat with her husband by slamming the door and going home to Mother. I'd like to know what's the mother's duty in a case like this. What would you do if your daughter came running home to you? Grandma Smith is in there pitching.
Send her right back where she belongs. And they could settle up. Don't come to me with their troubles.
Don't come to you.
No,
Uh-huh.
not at all. They want it that way. They should have understanding and tolerance and pray hard,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll get through.
Mm-hmm. You don't think it'd help them if they just slugged it out in their own house?
No, I don't. And wouldn't they just keep it going? I don't think so. Never can tell.
Now, I think it's time to go down in the audience for our Tell Me the Truth session. Just before we went on the air, we asked the studio audience to give us some questions. And from these, we've chosen several of the most interesting ones, which the studio guests will ask the grandmas in person. Now, let's see. Let's start here first with Mrs. Bert Schwartz.
Let's put her glasses on.
Were there any wolves on Grandma's day, and how did she handle them?
Were there any wolves in Grandma's day, and how did she handle them?
I suppose there were.
Grandma Smith?
I suppose there were.
What do you mean you suppose there were?
Well, only I never met up with any, but there must have been.
Well, now, wait a minute. It seems to me I remember these guys with these handlebar mustaches and the hat on one side. And yeah.
Well, I went by on the other side of the street when I met any like that.
You did, huh?
Yeah.
Did you have wide streets and...
Yes, rather wide, yes.
You still couldn't hear the whistle, huh?
Well, they never whistled in my day. Maybe they hadn't learned that yet. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Grandma? Oh, there's Grandma Morgan.
Oh, yes, they used to ogle, you know, from across the street.
Did they?
Yes, indeed they did.
Used to hang around the
And,
cigar store?
And the girls were just, in those days, you know, with the long skirt,
Mm-hmm.
the little twist in the back and
Mm-hmm.
raise the skirt just a bit and pat her along.
You did. Now, here's a kid that said they didn't use any tricks in those days.
I think
This was the wolf who ogled, not the man who proposed to you, the man you were in love with.
Oh, I
Quite
love
different.
you. Love you, Grandma Morgan.
Well, there was another type that used to have some kind of a little song or hum some way that make you keep step to him. And,
Oh, I remember.
You remember that?
Sing
that
da,
song?
da, 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 da,
And the poor
da.
girl would be so
What am I
embarrassed
doing?
trying to get out of it.
Giving myself away.
I should say you are.
We have time for another question here from the audience. And this is from Grace Woodrum, I believe it is. And she's from Pasadena, California. And she wants to know, when a wife works, should she have to use her money for the household expenses, or should she spend it on herself? This is providing, I guess, the husband works, too. All right, do you want to ask the... Oh, I already asked the question. That's great, isn't it? You want to add anything to that, Mrs. Woodrum?
I believe you've said enough.
I said enough. How about it, Grandma?
Well, I think they
This is
should
Grandma
have an
Smith.
understanding and divide up the expenses.
You mean he stays home all day, she works, but she should split with him?
No, he's not staying home all day. I didn't understand it that way.
Where is he
She
then?
she earn the living, and
Yeah.
he stay at home.
Is that right? Is the wife the only one working?
No, he works too.
But I
Oh,
say
that makes a difference.
I thought she said they both work.
You
They
mean-
should have an understanding.
Well, Grandma Page, move into the mic there and tell us what you think.
Well, I think that if a woman wants to work, then she should put her money in the family pot. If she doesn't want to work, she can stay home and use her husband's money.
If she puts it in the sugar bowl, she's cooked, you know. Well, I'm afraid that's about all the time we have for our Tell Me the Truth session. Now I want to thank our board of genuine experts, Grandma Cooper, Grandma Morgan, Grandma Page, and Grandma Smith. It was really wonderful for you to come here tonight, and we want to thank you a lot. Don't you think they did a swell job?
Lavender blue, dilly dilly, lavender green. If I
Be sure to listen next week when our panel will include Grandma Power, the mother of Tyrone Power, plus a surprise guest, a truly unusual grandmother whom we found in a lion's den. Remember, we'll be looking for your questions. Address them to Listen to Grandma, Hollywood 28, California.
This is Cliff Arquette inviting you to join us again next week at the same time when once again we'll all listen to Grandma.
Lavender green, then I'll be king, dilly dilly, and you'll be my queen.
Oh, is that so? It seems the piano was picked up from Transcontinental Transfer at Bennington and by mistake brought here.
Hey, wait, hold everything. Maybe that's the piano I got in the trunk.
A Beckman concert grand?
Yeah, it is a Beckman.
Well, this is very fortunate. Very fortunate. It's the piano for Jose Moreno's concert in Duluth. You see, I'm his manager.
You're Jose Moreno's manager? Oh, why, then you must know Mr. Bowman.
Bowman?
Yes.
Bowman. No, I don't believe.
If you'll excuse me, Mrs. Pinkley,
you mean that man?
I'd better wire my office.
One moment, sir. Yes, madam, I do know him. I know him quite well.
Oh.
But not as Mr. Bowman. I was a witness at his trial 3 years ago.
Trial?
What's that? Yes, for fraud. His racket was booking artists he couldn't and didn't intend to deliver. He's a swindler.
You're mistaken. I've got to be going.
If he's told you he's booked Moreno here, he's lying.
Oh, well, stop him. He's got my check.
Get away from that door, you.
Look out! I got him!
I told you I was gonna sock somebody.
Oh, swindler, huh? Look at him laying there, flatter than an Iceman's shoulder.
Chip artist, a confidence man, and you, Carolyn, gave him $8,000.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't realize that he was...
$8,000 donated by the good citizens of this town.
Well, we'll give it back. We'll return the money.
How can you return the money?
Oh, why, that'll be easy.
Not for a politician.
No, I mean, how can she return it? After all this talk about bringing culture to Amity, all this hubbub and discord she's caused, why, what'll people say?
Oh, I don't know.
You can't return it without making a fool out of yourself. And out of me. Here I was, almost ready to condemn this beautiful old building. These hallowed walls with their glorious tradition.
Yes, well, never mind making a speech.
Yeah?
I'm not entirely familiar with what's been happening here, but if a concert by Moreno will help solve the difficulty, I'll be happy to arrange it.
You will? Oh, thank heaven. Well, that'll save us.
But you'll still have to pay for the hall.
Oh, yes. We'll pay.
Yeah, you'll pay, and you'll be getting off easy. I can't understand. How on earth, Karen, how on earth could you possibly do so many stupid things all in 1 week?
She got up early.
So we did get Jose Moreno after all, and a great many other fine artists as well, and they all appeared in old Trevis Hall. Yes, today in Amity we're well up on our music. We not only know the popular songs, but the classics from which they were lifted. Good night.
You have heard My Hometown, starring Cliff Arquette and Will Wright as Ed and Willie Penrose. Others in the cast included Eleanor Audley, Willard Waterman, Sam Edwards, Walter Burke, Wilms Herbert, Theodore Von Eltz, and Betty Moran. My Hometown was written by John Eugene Hasty and produced by Max Hutto. Music was by Claude Sweeten. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.